What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 30 of Big Game Talk. I'm Brad. That's Chris over there. Just to start off, we want to thank Andre Uhl for coming on last week for the interview. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out our last post, either on wherever you find your podcast or on YouTube. It was a really
And we'll
fun
put it up
interview.
here. We'll put it
Yeah.
up here on the YouTube. For anybody on the YouTube, if you're on audio, up here is a very abstract thing. You have no idea what you're
hmm
but go check it out. If you're on Spotify or whatever, you can find it there as well.
hmm
Check out our interview. Really interesting guy. He's got a future in the UFC. Let me tell you that. And he's a dynamic personality. We had a lot of fun talking to him.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And staying on the MMA topic, we'll start off last night, Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva fight night. We'll recap that quick for you. So, starting from the top there, Uriah Hall beats Anderson Silva by TKO. This was a very Now I'm gonna lead the discussion here
Yeah,
because
because
Chris had to miss it. This was a very weird fight to watch because you look at Uriah Hall kind of as a poor man's Anderson Silva, not now, but like a poor
yeah,
man's prime Anderson Silva, where they have similar styles, but you can tell that the skill level is not at that level. And Anderson Silva's 45 years old, and Uriah Hall very obviously idolizes him. And the first three rounds, up until really the last 30 seconds of the third round, it was a lot of very slow, like there wasn't a lot of action. There was a lot of deliberate kind of just one shot back away type of action. And then you could tell at the end of the third, Silva just got clipped on the chin, dropped. If the third round goes another 10 seconds, Hall finishes him. Then the fourth starts the same, really timid back and forth, and then Silva barely gets clipped again, and then Hall puts him out. It kind of afterwards, after the fight, when Hall is literally sobbing, saying "I'm sorry" and all of this to Anderson Silva, it was kind of, you look at the matchmaking, and it makes sense why he's so timid because of how much he idolized Silva and how tough it must have been for him to beat his idol in this spot. And for Silva, it was a situation like Dana White said after the fight. He regrets letting Silva fight in that, and really Silva shouldn't be fighting anymore, and he
hmm
shouldn't have been in that fight. His chin's not there. His
yeah.
skill level, he still has skill. He's still better than probably a lot of people in the UFC, but at 45, the chin's just not there.
And
So
so
it was good for Hall
yeah,
for getting the win, but it was kind of a tough watch.
Yeah, and me as somebody who didn't watch it, like going into Saturday, like I knew I was going to be able to watch the fight, but I was almost glad because I was just it's just a tough look the whole way through. Like you could tell that was going to be the case. I mean, Hall class act, knowing the situation,
Mhm.
a lesser man would not care about any context and just go in for the kill.
Yeah.
But you still got to win,
Yeah,
you got to win your
it
fights.
got to a
Y-
point where it was, you want to give props to Hall, but at the same time it made for a very awkward looking fight. And
Yeah.
you don't want to give the guy too much respect that you kind of put on a piss poor performance.
Yeah. It sounds like I can't remember what year it was, but the last All-Star game that Jeter was in,
hmm
I remember a pitcher I can't name the pitcher right now, but there was a pitcher who was like he gave a floater to Derek Jeter and Jeter crushed it.
hmm
And then like they were interviewing him during the game because they do all that gimmicky stuff like during All-Star games. And the pitcher was like, "Yeah, I gave Jeter a floater. Like he's my hero." And it's like, yeah, I get that you want to respect him and all and stuff like that, but it's like it's like when you lose or you win a game of wiffle ball against your cousin and he's like, "I let you win." Like
hmm
it's just like it's you don't do that. I'm talking
Exactly.
to you, Noah. Um, but
Exactly.
it's tough like it's a tough spot, but at the same time, like Hall, like from what I've heard, class act. And now I gotta ask you because I'm a bit confused because I was looking up like after the fight, I was out and I was looking up retirement stuff. Like, is he
Mhm.
retired? I was asking you. I think you had gone to bed at that point. Like, so is like Silva
So
retired now?
do you want to get into
Yeah.
this now, or like we get into
Let's
it now?
let's. I think we should roll into this and then we'll get to the rest of the the
Okay.
the card. Like,
I 100% that was his last fight in the UFC. I think
yeah.
when you have Dana White saying I regretted letting him take this fight,
Uh huh.
I think Anderson Silva is really unsure because before the fight he was saying this is my last UFC fight, probably.
Mm-hmm.
With Dana White saying that this definitely his last UFC fight. Michael Bisping asked him after the fight, he's like, "Is this it?" And then he pretty much said, yes, it is it. And
Mhm.
then Michael Bisping said, like, I just want to confirm, like, what you're saying. And he goes, well, I don't know. And then goes on, like, we're going to go back to his camp and talk. Uh, it's really tough. I don't know. I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
it's going to be, it would have to be in a different promotion. I'm
Yeah.
going to assume that promotion would have to be Bellator.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is there a spot in, Bellator would sign him. They love
Yeah.
signing
Yeah. I
old
mean, you
UFC
got
guys.
Fedor, you got Rampage, you got guys like that, you know, kicking around in Bellator, you know.
Yeah, it's I would like to not see Anderson Silva fighting. I don't think there's a need for it. He's 45. Quite obviously, his chin's gone. And to leave the UFC and go down, it's not going to help your legacy or your
Mhm.
career.
Yeah.
It's only going to hurt it. I think it's time to hang it up.
Yeah.
But we all know how tough that is for fighters to do. So
Yeah.
whether or not it happens or not, but I would be pretty confident in saying that he'll never fight in the UFC again.
Yeah. You know, and it's crazy to reflect on the career of Anderson Silva because I mean, this is a guy that started fighting professionally like before we were born, you know, like
Hmm.
me or you were born. And so it's a super long career and just the things that he accomplished. I mean 16 consecutive
Wait,
title
has he
defenses.
fought for that long?
Yeah, since 97, I think.
So the
I
year I
looked
was
up, yeah,
born.
the year you were born. So yeah, like so his career is as old as you are, Brad.
Yeah.
And you're an old man, so you
Well, that's
know,
just like think about when you think about it like that, after 23 years, it's time to stop getting punched in the face because it's
yeah.
going to take its toll.
Yeah. And I mean that's what your life has been, 23 years of getting punched in the face, you know, you awkward kid, you know, at the lunch table, you know,
Yeah.
accountant,
Yeah.
aspiring to be accountant, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just kidding. But anyways, yeah, Anderson Silva 16 consecutive title defenses. Like like over 2,000 days this man held the belt. Like that is insane.
The one thing I'm not going to say I don't like Anderson Silva, but like I was never the biggest fan of Anderson
Yeah.
Silva. And then part of that is I love Chael Sonnen, and you do too. Those fights where Chael lost, kind of
Yeah.
heartbreaking. And then like the PED failures are kind of a stain on the legacy.
Yeah.
How he lost his belt with the Weidman, where he really lost it for just goofing around mid-fight.
Mhm.
Really, there's no like, and can this late career skid? It's really like there's been a lot of things that
Yeah.
went against his legacy. You can't. He's one of
Yeah.
the best fighters of all time.
Mhm.
You can never
Yeah.
take that away
Now,
from him.
I mean our last week we did pound for pound with all the Khabib talk and him being made the pound for pound best. I mean, Anderson Silva was not in our top fives. You
And
know,
he is in a lot. Most people will put him
he's
in the
in,
top five.
yeah,
Yeah.
like most people put him in the top five, you know, so that's, I mean, kind of interesting. Like I like I still like in light of kind of reflecting on Anderson Silva's career, I don't think he's in my top five, but at the
See,
same
I
time,
think
like
like there's is he not in your top five for skill level, or is he not in your top five because the PED stuff keeps him out? Like that is enough of a hamper to keep
you
him
know,
out.
like, and I think the PED stuff definitely takes him down in my list, but at the same time, I mean, John Jones is on my top five, so or is in my top five. So,
Mhm.
like, how hypocritical am I? You know,
Yeah.
how recency bias am I? You know, like I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I'm not the one deciding pound for pounds,
Like
like
I think
lists,
when you talk about the
but
top five, they're almost like DC and Helwani did this either last week or the week before. And I think it
mhm,
was last week where they did their top five non-PED and their top five PED. And
uh-huh,
those are very different lists.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like it's almost you have to distinguish between the two. You really do.
yeah. Yeah, and like, what's your general take on like PEDs? Like in terms of like how much do you care?
Um, Fighting, I care a lot.
Yeah.
Like in other sports, I start caring a lot less, I'd
Uh-huh.
say. I think fighting is a sport where I would care the most simply because of the ramifications that it can have.
Yeah.
Like if you're like there's large ramifications no matter what. But if you're in baseball and you hit a couple extra home runs,
Yeah.
like that's like
Don't like what I'd say is just don't get caught.
yeah.
Like
But in
everybody's doing
in
it, don't get
fighting,
caught.
Like
Like,
you look at, I'm still a fan of TJ Dillashaw, but
mhm,
like popping for EPO,
yeah,
that is one where it is like your stamina goes through the roof from my
mhm,
limited understanding and googling of that. It's
yeah,
it's it's similar to what Lance Armstrong took for the Tour de France. Like with that, you're putting yourself in an advantage in a sport where you punch somebody in the face, and if you're in there and your stamina is not gonna waver whatsoever,
yeah,
like you're putting the other person in danger.
mhm.
So I got a real problem with PDs in that case, but always gonna be a part of the sport. You
Yeah.
can never get rid of it.
Yeah, and it's almost like an arms race really between the like USADA and all those folks who do the testing and the doctors that these guys are hiring from who knows where to give them these drugs.
Mhm.
It's just the technology gets better on either side. And it's like the people that are doing the testing are constantly playing catch up as like people find new drugs, different variants of drugs to use. I mean, we saw that with the Russians in the Olympics with the whole
Yeah.
Icarus stuff. It's just like it's insane how much like this doesn't it's almost like with diseases, how we're like we don't solve like we didn't figure out the like the plague, and we're just like, okay, we've just washed our hands all the diseases. Now like there's new diseases, and we got to get new stuff. Like it's one of those things going on.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be a problem in sports, and I think that's the first time, like, makes a lot of sense what you say. Like it's the first time I've heard that differentiation between like combat sports and then all other sports.
Yeah.
Because like my take, like I remember when I was a little kid, like in school, and I'd be writing like personal essays on why like PEDs are like bad and like they're cheaters and cheaters never win, and like just a
Mhm.
bunch of like Disney Channel BS about just like why you should do the right thing. Like back when I was actually a good person. Now I'm at the point where it's like Barry Bonds, like I caught that tail end of his career. He was a lot of fun. He was a lot of fun to watch,
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like
like
when you compare the Barry Bonds versus like look at UFC 214, John Jones, Daniel Cormier. Now,
yeah,
if John Jones, because he failed the drug test after that, so let's say in that situation, his performance was incredible, like that much enhanced because of the drugs. You look
yeah,
at the difference between Barry Bonds, where he sets a home run record, which
mhm,
yes hurts other people's their bank
yeah,
accounts, like the pitchers and everything. We look at John Jones' head kick against Daniel Cormier. That's
mhm,
something that I mean, Daniel Cormier won just that moment in the loss of the title,
yeah,
the infamousy of that moment will live with Daniel Cormier for the rest of his life.
yeah,
The toll that takes on your body, like
yeah,
that's not like you recover, but you never fully
yeah.
recover.
That's not like Barry Bonds hitting a home run off you.
Yeah,
Like you're fine. Like what's really important, you're fine.
exactly. And
Like
also too, the fact that Daniel Cormier is going to get that gif of him crying after probably 100 times a day, if not more.
yeah,
And for something where if John Jones was that much enhanced because of drugs, it truly isn't fair.
yeah, yeah.
So that's why I think there's the very much a noticeable difference.
Yeah, that's fair. So you gotta look at that. I mean, for if you're Anderson Silva, like especially, I mean, you've already tarnished the legacy. Like you've done, first of all, like on paper, you've done something nobody else has done.
Yep.
16 consecutive title defenses. Like over 2,000 days, you held the belt. Like that will never be replicated. I don't think. Like
No.
I don't see that ever. Like that was a different era in the UFC. Silva was one of the guys that built the UFC
Hmm.
into what it is. Huge Brazilian fan base, and a lot
Hmm.
of it is from guys
Hmm.
like Silva. And I mean MMA is already huge, and like they love Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which I mean which is why Silva was into like MMA in the first place. But he did so much for the sport internationally. But at the same time, it's just a shame to see a guy with that on paper be diminished by PEDs and then just not knowing when to hang up the gloves.
Yep.
It's crazy. UFC in MMA in UFC, like the retirements mean so little. Like it's like everybody's out here being like Brett Favre, right? and just coming in, coming out, coming in, coming out. And then there's other guys that just never leave, and it's just really sad to see.
And I
It's
think the difference, like this happens in other sports.
yeah,
The only difference is if you're a baseball player and your skills are, once they get to a diminished point, you're just getting cut from the roster
yeah,
and you don't have a choice.
uh-huh,
Where in fighting, they'll still put you in because they can still use your name value. And you getting beat is still worthy to the organization. Where
yeah,
for the organization that you're hired to in baseball is your own
mm-hmm,
team, where they're not going to want you if you're not
yeah,
good, and that doesn't earn them anything.
yeah,
And if somebody in baseball is losing it, if they're a pitcher, they're going to get knocked around. Their ERA is going to shoot up.
yeah,
If they're a hitter or a field, they're going to make some errors, or their batting average is going to
mm-hmm,
drop. In fighting, you get knocked out,
yeah,
and it's so much more visible. So I
yeah,
think that's where I think it happens in all sports. It's just so much more visible
mm-hmm,
in fighting, and especially for these guys that we've grown up watching, it tugs the heartstrings so much more too.
yeah, yeah. And I mean also, like, a lot of like the UFC, or sorry, MMA is the only sport that you can have like Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell go against each other,
Hmm.
and put a price tag on that. Like, take that fight, like two guys that have been out of their prime, like out of it for who knows how many years. Like, these guys are way old, and they go out and they just get gassed in 30 seconds, and it's just the worst like version of the sport you've ever seen. And people, and I didn't pay for it. I mean, I watched it, but
Hmm.
people paid for it. So, and I mean, you think about Rampage going up against Fedor, like, just
Hmm.
all these, like, it's one thing when you put the two old guys together, but when you're putting Hall against Silva, that's just broke.
Yeah.
And that is like, I'm going to use the name of, like, I'm going to destroy the name of one person for the sake of another guy's name,
And that's the
Yeah,
way the
and that's the way
business
the business
runs.
works. Like, you can look at all the greats, and you could say, and you could point to the faster gun that took them out. Like,
Right
um,
now, like you could say there's only two people in UFC history that have walked away, or debatably three right now,
yeah,
but two people. So you got George St. Pierre walked away on top.
yeah,
You got Henry Cejudo, provided he does not come back, walked away on top, and Khabib
and Khabib, yeah,
potentially, and which we're going to
yeah,
talk about later, and as of right now, if he does walk away. So, and then you got, but of those three, look at Cejudo. I would bet my life savings that he's not fought his last fight in UFC. He's
no,
coming
he
back.
hasn't. He's
Khabib, we're going to talk about later. He might come back. So really, GSP is the only one that's done it right, and there's constant rumors of him coming back too.
Yeah, 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 everybody's coming back. Like,
Hmm.
everybody comes back, but with Khabib, I mean, oh, we'll get into the Khabib stock later, but let's get back to
You
Silva. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, good for Uriah Hall for getting this
yeah,
win too. I think it does, like, no matter, it still pushes his name up there a little bit. He's gonna get a little bit of a higher ranked guy, and he was supposed to fight Yoel Romero and Jacare Souza before this fight too.
mhm,
So it's not like they thought light of him. Like he was supposed to fight solid guys.
yeah,
So we'll see what happens from here.
yeah,
I think Silva, his legacy is going to be, I would hope that people would think it's of a great fighter.
yeah,
I hope that, like, we talked a lot about the PDs here. I hope that people are kind of able to look past that, see what he was as a fighter,
yeah,
what he did for MMA as a whole, especially the UFC,
yeah.
and that we're never going to have somebody like that
And
again.
and and I think also with the PEDs, the thing is, like, with every sport, you can look at that time period where he was doing PEDs, and every sport was having PD problems.
Yeah.
Like, that time, So, everybody, like, it's one of those things, like, yeah, it's different when it's in fighting, but at the same time, like, you don't know who was doing it and got away with it.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, more people slip through the cracks than get caught. Like, 100%.
Yeah, and if you go by that method, it's kind of if you know everybody else is doing it and you do
Yeah.
it too, are you really cheating, or are you just even in the score?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a big problem. It's like, yeah, and it's just humans. humans are broken, so there's always going to be cheating. Like,
Yep.
like
Especially when a lot of money is
yeah, a
involved.
lot of money's on the line. Your pride's on the line.
Yep.
Your safety's on the line
Mhm.
in a sport like MMA. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
Yep. Exactly. The rest of the card, the co-main event, Bryce Mitchell, or Thug Nasty as he likes to be called, versus Andre Feely. Bryce Mitchell. I don't know if you saw this. You're familiar with Bryce Mitchell, of course.
Yeah.
He finally got his camo shorts that he's been calling out for a long time.
I
The
didn't see a
camo,
picture. No, like last
the
night he got.
yeah. So he wore the camo shorts. They looked pretty cool. The fight against Andre Feely. This was what I thought was set to be the best fight on the card. It was a good fight. Bryce
Yeah.
Mitchell's fight style is a lot more take you down, hold you down. Feely like, got a decent performance. It was very clearly though Bryce Mitchell win 29-28.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Mitchell's going to be a star, I think. I think he's going to shoot his way up the featherweight rankings and wearing his camo shorts and all. I think he's like Andre Feely's going to be a perennial, not contender, but top flight guy.
Yeah.
Bryce Mitchell's somebody that could have a belt, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's close right now. He's a few years away. But if they keep pushing him, he could have a belt by the end of it.
Yeah.
He's really solid. Every time he steps in the cage, he just shows a lot of improvements. Like this time, his stand up, I was really impressed with, and on the ground, he's just so good, and he's so critical of himself too,
Mm-hmm.
where he just constantly wants to improve. It's really cool to see, and
Recipe
he's got the
for success.
and he's got a good personality too,
Mm-hmm.
and he's halfway decent on a mic.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that goes a long way. Like for getting you the money fights goes a long way.
Yep, and at featherweight, it just goes to show how good the featherweight division is
Yeah.
too. The rest of the card, we had Greg Hardy beat Maurice Green by knockout. I mean, like, I hate to say it because I hate the guy so much, but Greg Hardy looked. This is probably the best he's looked in the octagon.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looked really good in the fight. I mean, the UFC though, you got to stop. Like Maurice Green, Greg Hardy walked into this minus 320 favorite.
Yeah.
Like they're just. I don't know why the push on Greg Hardy. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody likes him. Nobody
Yeah.
likes him. We all know his history. Like
Yeah.
we've been into his history multiple times on this podcast. Like
Yeah.
there's even a need to revisit it. And it's just I don't know why the need to keep pushing him.
Yeah.
I think at this time, if you're the UFC, you need to understand that if people are watching Greg Hardy fight, it's because they want him to get brutally knocked out.
Yeah.
So I think it's time match him up with like a Derek Lewis.
Yeah.
We know what Derek Lewis did to Travis Brown after those allegations came out.
Yeah.
So let's see it again, and people are gonna love it.
Yeah.
That's what they want to see.
Now, if you're the UFC, it's almost like you keep that in your back pocket, but you wait to cash in on that. Like you wait to because it is Greg Hardy. Like, how does Greg Hardy come back from just getting mucked by Derek Lewis? Like, with the fans react.
But the thing is, like, but then you just like you don't need him. Just let him
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And but he's starting to make some measurable progress too. Because when he first came in, he looked really bad. Like he didn't look like a fighter at all. I thought he was going to look real bad in this fight, considering his first time on the scale. He almost missed the heavy. He weighed too much. Like he missed the heavyweight limit. He had to go back and cut a few more pounds and come back. So he would have been the first heavyweight to miss weight. And so you're thinking you got to be way out of shape.
Yeah.
Cardio didn't look good, but the problem is Maurice Green's cardio just was that much worse.
Yeah.
And Hardy's got heavy hands. But to me, like if you put him against Derek Lewis and he just gets starched, and then you cut him, I'm not upset with that. But I don't think the UFC's done that. For some reason, they have this love fest with him. I don't get it.
Yeah, and like I wonder like their internal metrics, how much money he's bringing in. Because I mean, even we've talked about this on the show before. I mean, even if you're not rooting for a guy, you tuning in to see him get beat up for the potential of getting beat up, he brings money. Like whether most people hate him, which is the fact. Like most people, like if you're a logical person, you don't like Greg Hardy, and yet the same logical people that say I don't like Greg Hardy are tuning in to watch Greg Hardy fight because there's always the potential that he's going to get smacked. And I think You almost gotta like, and I'm not justifying because I want to see
Yeah,
him as
no,
far away
I
from the
get.
organization as possible. But I think if you're the UFC and you're trying to play it the financially smart way, you kind of play like you do two things. One, you build up the heel that is Greg Hardy, so
Mhm.
you give him like credibility, and you give him like you constantly see him run through these guys that like these constant dogs that they keep giving him, and then you see him build it up, and then finally the payoff comes with Derek Lewis. Like I think that's down the road. I think we're gonna see a few more fights where Greg Hardy just like mucks people. Like I think, and honestly, like I like you almost want to you want Greg Hart like subconsciously, even though you say like I just want Derek Lewis to like smack him around in the like first 30 seconds, like the best viewing experience with Greg Hardy versus Derek Lewis if it's a war and Derek Lewis comes out on top. Like that's a great story of a fight, you know. And so
I see your idea. I really see
yeah,
it. I don't think that's what the UFC is trying to do, because the
yeah,
UFC really is trying to paint the picture of him as a changed good man, and so is he.
yeah,
And see, the problem is nobody's believing it. Like it's if they were like, you can't play the heel for what he
yeah,
did. You just can't. But
yeah,
like I would say like the heel that works is like your Colby Covington.
yeah,
The people, like, a little bit of people love him and a lot of people hate him,
yeah.
but you're tuning in to watch him fight. And
Hmm.
the difference is with somebody like that too is Colby Covington's good enough to justify it.
Yeah.
Where you go, you like, regardless of what you think, you have to respect the skill that he has in the octagon.
Yeah, because I mean, he has the ability to upset, like upset a favorite. You know,
Covington, yeah, he
which
damn near
yeah,
won the title. He had
yeah.
a piece of
So
the title with the interim,
yeah,
and
so
the fight with Usman, if it goes to
yeah,
scorecards, could have went either way.
exactly. So and right now, like we really haven't been able to see, like not really with confidence that Greg Hardy can do that. You
Mm-mm.
know, he like
And even
the
in his UFC fights, he's won. So his first fight, Alan Crowder,
yeah,
disqualified, illegal knee. His next fight, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna get the timeline mixed up. But he has a few wins against some really bad opponents, and it
yeah,
because the one fight though, I can't remember who he's fighting. I think it was Ben Sassoli. He won that. That got overturned to a no contest because he took an inhaler mid fight. So he'll get two wins that well, because he was beating Alan Carter, but two would have
yeah,
been wins overturned. Just are you eating Halloween candy mid recording too?
yeah.
Come on,
Got a
guys.
lot of Halloween candy. You know, speaking of Halloween,
Yeah,
you know what's crazy?
what's that?
It's Banana Land. It's like one of those things. It's funny, but also just like, man, that was a bad decision. So this like Oregon does like the daily update on COVID, like the government of Oregon, and they have like some health minister or whatever read the report. And so this woman has like
Before you get into that too, are we gonna leave the COVID in there? Are we gonna bleep that out so we don't have to have the tag at the bottom of the video?
you know, this is a test. Like, I'm not gonna put COVID in the tags
Mhm.
and see if dude, if YouTube's listening to us, that's creepy.
Mhm.
That's creepy. So we need to test to see if Susan Wojcicki is really listening in on us. But at least that would mean we have one listener to the podcast. But
Hey, we're doing
anyways,
decent now.
so this lady, she's reading out the death number, like how many people died in the last like week or whatever,
Mhm.
and she's doing it dressed as a clown
Oh, that's terrifying.
for Halloween.
That is
Like
terrifying.
it's just unsettling.
That is terribly unsettling.
Yeah, dude, that's like like in 100 years, like there's that video is gonna be like put on like your first day in like history class. They're gonna play that video and be like, look how crazy these people were.
We're living in wild times.
Yeah, dude, crazy times. But anyways, like 5 kids came to the house yesterday, so we got a lot of candy. So
Yeah, we had zero come to the house. But so rest of the card, Kevin Holland got a win against, I think, Charlie Ontiveros. Ontiveros tore a muscle in his neck mid-fight. It was kind of scary, but it also was like, Ontiveros shouldn't have been in there. He took the fight 3 days notice. He's a welterweight fighting at middleweight.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Green got beat by Thiago Moises. Pretty good fight.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, we might as well look ahead to the fight night next weekend.
Yeah, let's do it.
So November 7th, 10 p.m. start on the main card. Headline Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira. Hell of a fight. This is about the third time it's been booked. Both of them tested positive for COVID, had to pull out. This is definitely a number one contender fight for the light heavyweight division. Yep. I think Thiago Santos is what we're going to talk about light heavyweight division later, but Thiago Santos, I think, could be the future champion.
Mm-hmm.
He arguably beat John Jones with every important muscle in his leg torn.
Yeah.
So I think he beats Glover Teixeira here, and that should get him a title shot.
Yeah.
We're going to talk later about the light heavyweight division, why that might not give him a title shot. Other fights of note on the card: Andre Arlovski versus Tanner Boser. Tanner Boser's had a hell of a year. Canadian kid. We'll be cheering for him. Ian Heinisch versus Brendan Allen. Good fight at middleweight. And Claudia Gadelha versus Jan Xiaojian at strawweight. Any thoughts on that as I look at the prelim, see anything of note?
Well, like, let me just talk about, Teixeira. He's like, I really like him. Mm-hmm. I really like him as a fighter. He really surprised me against Smith. Yep. But I think like I don't think he has it this weekend. I don't think he I don't think he's I think he's good to be a contender or like in the running, but I don't think he's a title guy. Like, I don't think he has it. It's pretty late in the career.
He's 40.
Yeah, he's 40. Like, I think this is really to speak kind of morbidly, like, this is almost kind of the beginning of the end, this fight. I think Smith was the crescendo, and that's where I think I'm at, like, which is kind of sad because I like Teixeira. But
no, I like that. I like that thought process too. I think you're probably very right on that. I agree with you. And Santos too. I think he is. I mean, he beat Błachowicz not that long ago too. Yeah, Błachowicz your champ right now.
Yeah,
Santos is going to be a perennial contender and he deserves a title shot. Probably more than Dominic Reyes coming out of the John Jones fight. So yeah, I think he earns it here.
Yeah.
And before we get into some UFC news too, do you want to just go over some Bellator recap and Bellator preview as well?
Yeah, let's do that.
So we watched, it was Bellator 250. That's a big round number for them for a card too. Yeah. It was Thursday night. Headline Gegard Mousasi versus Douglas Lima for the middleweight world title. Douglas Lima, of course, was their welterweight champion. Gegard, the former middleweight champion. The belt was vacant. Gegard won decision. All in all, relatively not that memorable of a fight.
Yeah. Like, best way to describe biggest takeaway: Lima looks small. Like, yeah, that's the biggest, and that really is the story of the fight. Like, Mustafa was just walking him down, Mousasi, whatever, was walking him down, and he was just he was either pushing him against the fence or just walking him down to the fence the whole time. It's just tough to see. I really enjoy watching Lima fight. Really like him, but this champs, this fight was just such a letdown after. If you're Bellator and you're putting a lot into this champ business, it's really tough when that's the end product. It's just a poor, it's not even poorly mismatched in terms of skill. It's just poorly mismatched in terms of just practical things like their size. It just didn't work. And then it also almost thank God it didn't work, because then it's just the belts are all messed up. I don't know.
Yeah, I my thoughts on it being on a Thursday night. You can hear in the last episode I had some pretty strong thoughts on that. Yeah. I think it's absolutely ridiculous it was on a Thursday night, because right now we're talking about this Sunday night. This will come out Monday.
Yeah.
And it feels like it was forever ago.
Yeah.
And also to the fact that you just if Lima won, you ruined both divisions.
Yeah.
You still kind of, it just doesn't make any sense because now your welterweight champion, who was probably the star of your organization coming off the welterweight Grand Prix, is now coming off a loss for his next title defense. Doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
Bellator is just going to keep Bellatoring where they want as many double champs as possible.
Yeah, and they want as many Thursday night cards as possible. I mean, Bellator 250 too. I mean, that's a huge night. Like you got a champ possibility on the line. It's Bellator 250. I mean, Thursday night. That's the night you're gonna hold that on. It's just weird. Like Bellator, like it's almost like these are signs. Like if you were Bellator, right, and you were doing like Bellator, like what if you were doing what Bellator would be doing, like in your normal life, like doing shit like Bellator's doing, I would be like sending you to get professional help. Like this is a cry for help almost that Bellator's doing this stuff.
It doesn't make any sense.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
And did you see? Like the UFC did something, and I don't know if it was intentional, but it was absolutely hilarious in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you know how before, like the week before a fighter fights, they'll put out the full free fight or whatever, and they'll do highlights. So they put out obviously Uriah Hall. He fought, and he knocked out Gegard Mousasi pretty horribly when Gegard was in the UFC, and they put out that free fight on, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's perfect.
It's just a reminder to everyone. Yeah, it's just a reminder to everybody, be like, hey, our guys that are ranked 10 and knocked out your would-be champion.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there for the Bellator. You got to be scrappy.
Yeah,
you got to be scrappy. And but anyways, looking ahead. Right?
Yeah, so Bellator 251 this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern main card start. I like that. If you have it on Thursday, I like the 7 p.m. main card. It's a more than a 3-fight main card too. It's a 4-fight main card.
It's a good thing we're starting at 7 then.
Yeah,
because they take a lot of time between fights.
Way too much time. Don't turn into boxing, Bellator.
Yeah.
Light heavyweight main event: Melvin Manhoff versus Corey Anderson. It's gonna be interesting to see Corey Anderson his Bellator debut. I think probably if he gets a win here, they're going to push him into a title shot.
Yeah.
Or another big time fight like a Lyoto Machida fight. The co-main event is Tyrell Fortune versus Sad Salma at heavyweight. Don't really have any thoughts on that. Middleweight, Austin Vanderford versus Chris Curtis. Austin Vanderford, better known as Mr. Paige Van Zandt. So, I mean, no offense to him, but everybody knows his wife a lot more than him. And then it starts off with Derek Anderson versus Kilias Mota at welterweight. So, again, probably a top-heavy fight card, but that's Bellator for you. I'm excited to see what Corey Anderson does.
Yeah,
I liked him a lot in UFC.
Corey Anderson, and that, I mean, is that a win for Bellator, or is it a win for the UFC? You know, depending on how good he does.
Well, and the thing is too is you got to remember Corey Anderson was a win away from getting a title shot.
Yeah.
So when he fought Błachowicz, so he was up there.
Yeah,
he was up there. So good for Bellator.
Yeah. All right.
Getting into the UFC news.
Yep. Let's get into the UFC news, and there was a lot of it.
Yeah, Dana White was pretty hot on the press conference. So first off, Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, all but done.
Yeah.
You just pretty much need the contract signed. Now, do you, in your opinion, you hear that? How confident are you in this fight actually happening? Because Dana White's saying that, and then the contract actually being signed and the fight happening, there's still a lot of things that can go wrong in between that.
Yeah, and I think there's two angles, right, that it can go wrong. One is on the fighter side. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, maybe not recently, but like mid-coronavirus season of fighter pay. You know, you had stuff with Masvidal and like John Jones, like all these people just like going like biting off their nose to spite their face or whatever, to just try and get more pay. And even Conor McGregor got in on that a little bit. Yes. But what I think is the big thing for me that is I'm confident about, I don't think that's going to be a problem, is both these guys need this fight. So Conor McGregor, he's come back. He wants set like, I mean, Conor McGregor is saying two different things at once, right? Over the course of the last year, right? He's been saying, on one hand, he's been saying when he was coming back for the Cowboy fight, I'm a changed man. I'm not drinking during training camp. I'm being a lot serious. I'm practicing my wrestling. I'm like, I can't believe how good of a wrestler I am. Like it's great wrestling. And he's saying all those things, like how he's a changed man pretty much. And he wants to prove that. And then he goes in Stark's Cowboy, which I mean is, I don't want to be Stephen A. Smith, but it's like, it's to quote Chael Sonnen, how good is Conor McGregor, right?
Mhm.
So we still don't really know. He needs to prove himself. Poirier is the real deal. You think he's the best lightweight now that Khabib is gone? I'm not
If
misquoting
Khabib
you,
is
right?
gone. Yeah, I
Yeah, you
think
think?
Poirier's side is the best lightweight in the division, not named Khabib right now.
Yeah. So and I'm pretty like in agreement. I think I need to see this fight to really say that, solidify that. So Conor McGregor needs this fight to prove that he's a change. If he really believes in what he's saying, then he's wanting to take this fight. Poirier, I mean, this is a huge opportunity to, do something for the UFC lately and get back in that. You see, I mean, Khabib is gone. There's like the belt is. Oh, I mean, if Khabib's gone, which Khabib is saying, as far as Khabib's saying, he's gone. So the belt's hypothetically up for grabs. You need to be fighting soon to get back in that conversation. I think both of these guys need this fight on a practical level, not on a monetary level. I mean, the money is good, and these guys are going to get paid. This is a big money fight. But at the same time, I don't think there's going to be squabbles over fighter pay that are going to get in the way of this, because I mean, they both need this fight,
And
right?
one too is, especially as soon as McGregor steps in the ring, they're going to get paid simply because of the pay that will bring in for the organization.
Yeah.
The interesting thing though, you talk about Khabib maybe being gone. The way Dana White made it seem is that Khabib's not vacating and there'll be no interim title. Now we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next. But does it take away from this fight at all without there being a belt on the line, or simply is it just these two fighting no matter what? That's special.
I think that's special. I think now, well, I was gonna say, there's a few times where you'll have a big fight that's not a title fight, and it really like it's almost the importance of a title fight is being put onto this fight. And sometimes it's because, these guys are going to get like, it's for a number one contender spot, in which case it's basically a semifinal. It's playoff MMA. But then also, I mean, just the storyline. You think about the storyline for both of these guys, where they are in their careers. I mean, for Poirier, it's like this is his time, and for Conor, he's trying to hold on to time he's lost. So there's a lot at stake for these guys. Beyond the like, Conor McGregor is a like biggest fight of the year, no matter who he fights. Take away the name Conor McGregor, just look at the person and just the stakes on this fight. Like, I think when there's real stakes on the fight, like you feel it in the atmosphere, and the belt is like the ultimate stake, right? That is the physical, tangible stakes. But I'm saying stakes a lot in this talk, but like when you have Conor McGregor just where he is at in his career, you got Poirier where he's at in his career. I mean, you're gonna feel there's not gonna be a physical belt, but you're gonna feel it in the atmosphere and the way these guys carry themselves and the way these guys come out swinging. So like I really think it doesn't matter that this is a title fight. Like, it's in my mind, at least, it's like it honestly wouldn't make a difference to me if there was a belt on the line or not. Like, on same level of excitement, same level of importance. I think, I mean, either way, like even if there was a belt on the line, then like whoever, I don't know. There's just so many people in the lightweight division that could be fighting for a belt right now. So
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the feel for the fight. And now it kind of can lead into the discussion of why there isn't a belt on the line. That's because Khabib isn't getting vacated, and they're also not setting up the interim title. And why they're not vacating his title is because Dana White's talked to him, said there's a lot of emotions flowing that night, and that he might come back for 30-0, and that's what his father wanted, and he's still thinking about it. And for them to not vacate him, throw the title in that fight, makes me think that he's coming back.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's 3 options for this fight, and I'll give them to you. Give
Wait,
them
so 3 options for who's Khabib's gonna fight?
Khabib's fight. I think he either fights Connor because that's what the UFC wants. I think it's either Connor because that's what the UFC wants.
Yeah.
GSP because that's what Khabib wants. Tony Ferguson because that's what the fans want.
Yeah.
It's one of those 3 people. And I think you can say that GSP's maybe a chance, likely not.
I see. I like. I was into the GSP stuff like a while ago, but like the more I just don't see it happening. Like I don't see. I can barely see GSP coming back at middleweight. You know.
No, I can't.
Like it's
I
tough.
think it's gonna be Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
I think they don't want Tony Ferguson to be the one that got away.
Yeah.
I think Khabib, of all those 3, probably beats Tony Ferguson the easiest.
Yeah.
No offense to Tony Ferguson.
Well,
and that's gonna push him to 30-0.
Now I always said that Tony Ferguson is the best matchup for Khabib, in my opinion. I've always thought that. And I mean it changes a little bit like after he lost to Gaethje. But at the same time, like I think the thing that like I don't think Tony Ferguson is in any like fight a favorite against Khabib. No. He's probably a pretty heavy underdog. But the thing that gives me hope in Tony Ferguson against Khabib is just how unpredictable Tony Ferguson is. And that's the only thing. Like sometimes, like when Khabib's like really locking down on you with the grappling, like Tony Ferguson's the only guy in the UFC that could figure out a way out, in my opinion. Whether he has the strength to fall through, like that guy's got a weird brain, and I think that's the only thing. Like I think it matches up well against Khabib's wrestling. But
I'd love to see the fight. I mean,
yeah, I'd love to see the fight.
So like, much with it. I think Khabib wins that. I very much do. I think that's if he does come back, probably what happens. Whether or not that's what the UFC wants, I think they're definitely gonna want Conor to beat Poirier.
Yeah.
And then set that rematch up.
Yeah.
Khabib stated he's not working with.
I think that's
Khabib stated he's not gonna work with Conor, and why? And I really can't see that happening. But do you agree with Dana? Do you think Khabib actually comes back?
Well, like it's tough because like I have two pieces of evidence, right? That go either way. One, it's Khabib saying that his mother doesn't want him to fight when his father's not in this world, which is, you got 2 things going. You got, first of all, Khabib's like sense of just honoring my word, and Khabib's sense of honoring my family. Right. So when like, yes, you could see Khabib crying, and you could see Khabib just in a very broken state after that fight against Gaethje. But at the same time, like, I don't think of Khabib as a very emotional guy. Even then, when I hear him say something, I'm not thinking, oh, Khabib's saying this based on he's emotional. I'm thinking this because Khabib just says what he says and means what he means. That's so, like, in my mind, like I was kind of shocked when Dana White said, oh, he was just like very emotional. We've talked to him. We're not vacating like his belt. Like, we're not taking his belt from him. That just seems like it's just 2 contradictory pieces of evidence. They're going in either direction, and I can't make my mind up. Personally.
I think part of the emotional about it is too, after the fight, a lot of stuff came out that showed that Khabib almost didn't make the scale in the first part. So I think a lot of the emotions might have been coming from like everything building up, including that, because he had a broken foot. We know about that now. He had the mumps a couple weeks out from the fight. He was in a really bad area to weight cut. I think it was a really bad weight cut. I mean, it was visible on the scale. Yeah. You could see how excited he was that he made it. So, and God knows what else happened. So I think like that plays into it a lot too, which I would think honestly would lend more towards him not wanting to come back, because we all know he's got a hell of a cut. He's been hospitalized because of that cut before. So there'd be an element of like, I don't want to put my body through that again.
Yeah, and it's like it's interesting you put that in perspective, like of just all the stuff he went through to get to that fight, and then like I mean, on top of that is I mean the passing of his father,
Mm-hmm.
which starts that ball rolling, and then it's illness,
Yeah.
injury, bad weight cut, all this stuff going on. And it's amazing. Like Khabib is a guy like you don't think of emotion when you think of Khabib. Like you look back to the infamous McGregor Khabib press conference, and it's just Khabib's just calm. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's the only guy that could have been calm during that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a guy that's running off emotion. And you see like it almost humanizes, like not that Khabib's not humanizing himself in the way he kind of conducts himself, but he like it really humanized him to see him just like weep on the and it's not a like it's a very honorable like show of emotion, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when he does it. And it reminds you of the person that is Khabib. And I think because Khabib is just such a different breed of human being, in the way he conducts himself, in the way he fights, in the way he carries himself, in the way he trains, in the way he respects everybody that's not Conor McGregor and his friends, all of that. He's just a different human being, and emotion's not really one thing you associate with him. So I can understand. I mean, in those cases, like when anybody that's like that I've known, when they do get emotional, it's hard to cope with, right? When you do like the cracks in the armor start to break down. So then in that case, like I could see him saying, like kind of spur of the moment, I'm done. I'm finished. Um
Especially because his coaches and teammates didn't know before he said that. To
yeah.
be one, like if his coaches were like, "Yeah, he's been talking about this for a couple weeks," but
Okay, yeah, yeah.
for them to be shocked when he says it,
Yeah.
then it's like it lends a lot more to the really spur of
Yeah.
the moment.
And it makes me think about, and now this might be getting really like into the weeds of just like psychoanalyst, but and analyst analysis. Sorry. Um, and I'm thinking about when Khabib's comments in Fight Week when he said Conor McGregor, like his standing in the lightweight division, like if you go fight at welterweight
Mm-hmm.
against a guy that usually fights in this division, that still doesn't count towards getting back in position to fight for
Yeah.
a title. And I wonder if, I mean, either that's him thinking about number 30, and I don't want to have to deal with Conor McGregor not this time, not because I'm scared, it's because it's a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm just gonna choke him out. He's gonna be real annoying. He's gonna like insult me
Mm-hmm.
in a time where I don't want to be insulted. He's gonna bring my family into it when I really, at this point, do not want my family involved in this. I don't want to deal with this in my last fight. I want an honor-based fight
Yeah.
because that's what like that's why I'm in this game. I'm in this to fight with honor and respect the opponent and not have to deal with a mudslinging contest. Or he's saying, I'm about to just dip out and I'm not seeing Conor McGregor go right for the belt after I leave. You know,
Yeah.
I wonder,
I'd see
like, I
that.
wonder what's the motivation. Like, if that retirement was a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah. I agree with you. And we talked about that last week on the podcast too. Then you brought up the same thoughts where
Yeah.
it might have been to kind of like spite McGregor on the way out. Uh yeah, I know it's hard. It's really hard to say, and especially because of how very obviously how in like he keeps everything so in I'm losing the words here, but
Close to the chest.
close to the chest, yeah, and he doesn't let a lot of his feelings out. So
Yeah.
it's so interesting to see him kind of flip flop on the retirement
Yeah.
and the outpouring of emotion. It does humanize him, like you said.
Yeah. Because my original, and I said this on the podcast last week, and we had a commenter say that as well, and I reiterated it like in the comments section, and it was just like when Khabib says he's done, he's done.
Yeah.
But this is a totally different, like in light of just everything we've learned about the journey Khabib went on to get into that fight and to win that fight. You see, okay, this is not Khabib as we're like, this is not the Khabib we're used to. Yeah, in the octagon, when it was time to fight, it was good old fashioned Khabib. Khabib at his best almost,
Yeah.
but like in terms of the like putting a microphone in front of his face, this was a very different Khabib, you know. And
Yeah,
I said last week that it was surreal, and I think that's why it was so surreal. Like watching him, it was just, and I couldn't put a finger on it last week, but
mhm.
it was a totally different Khabib, you know. And now, like how, like if I ever like before this retirement stuff, if I ever thought that I'd be in a position where it's like we're wondering if Khabib is meaning what he's saying, I think we'd gone to crazy town. But here we are, you know.
I think too, like if you want to like connect the dots on this too, before the fight, Dana White said if he beats Gaethje, he has something special for Khabib. Now, when he said special, like he didn't say elaborate, and now
Yeah,
special would not be Conor McGregor
yeah,
because Khabib didn't want that. It's likely not Tony Ferguson because that's not special when it's something that's already been tried 5 times. And then when he talks about that his father wanted him to reach 30-0. His
yeah.
father didn't want him to reach 30-0. His father wanted him to reach 30-0 in the last fight against GSP.
Hmm.
So when you start connecting things where something special, that's something that he hasn't done. His father wanted him to do this. GSP coming out in an interview with Uriah Hall after the fight saying, I won't ask Khabib to come back out of retirement. I wouldn't do that. Now, to even say that means that you were really considering a fight against him.
Yeah,
You start connecting dots here, and you know for sure, like if Khabib does come back for one more fight, that's his last fight. So it doesn't matter either way. The title's being dropped after that fight.
yeah.
I think it does really line up towards the GSP fight.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of what GSP dropping the weight,
Yeah,
the UFC working the logistics of it, as
yeah.
because
Eh,
they like dealing with GSP is not easy.
yeah, yeah. And I said earlier on the show, I don't think this fight happens. But you know, when you talk about Dana White saying something special,
Mhm.
logic says the only thing special that could be offered, unless something comes like of the fights of Tony, of Connor, of Poirier, nothing. There's nothing special, right? We can rule those out.
Mhm.
The last one on the table is GSP. So unless something comes out of left field, like a fighter that we're just all just passing up right now,
Yeah, like, and
really
it's not
deserves
like
it.
he's gonna say like you could say special moving up in weight. That's not
Yeah,
gonna happen because he has this.
no,
I mean, he doesn't have a relationship with Usman, but I think they're somewhat close. They share manager, mind you. Him and Gaethje shared a manager too.
yeah,
So I don't see it being that. I really don't see it being
hmm,
that, especially with the state of the welterweight division where they have enough going on there.
yeah,
I think it has to be GSP, and I think right now it would almost be like before they confirm that he's coming back, you have to figure it out if GSP can make the weight and if he actually wants to come back.
yeah.
And you know what? That does happen, sorry Khabib, you're gonna be 29-1.
We'll see, man. I don't know. I love GSP. Pains me to say it, but and I'm looking like a clown here because I said Tony Ferguson is a good matchup for Khabib earlier. Like, I'm just contradicting myself this whole podcast. But like, GSP, I
Well,
would love.
you say you contradict yourself, but like they're tough subjects to argue because you
Yeah,
can see either side of it
yeah,
and you
yeah,
can
yeah.
flip flop, right?
Uh-huh. Like, and I'm definitely like, you root for GSP there. Personally, like we're a Canadian podcast, so of course we're gonna support the Canadian. Yes, he's from Quebec. We don't hold it against him. It's close enough having a
Mhm.
Canadian fighter. Um, but yeah, man, that would be like kid in a candy store level of excitement, you know?
I think GSP wins that because GSP doesn't come back unless he's absolutely sure he can beat Khabib. Like
Yeah,
that's just like so how analytical and how much he breaks down each opponent in every fight and how
yeah.
much he puts into it. He wouldn't come back because he thinks he can beat him. He comes back only because he knows he can.
No, and the thing is too, because like it's known that Khabib and his father were going for 30-0, and 30 was going to be GSP. So GSP has been retired for uh
3 years
3 years. Yeah, so not like
since
he's
that card.
yeah, he's had a lot of time off, right?
Hmm.
And the whole time he's knowing the only fight I come back for is Khabib. So every time that GSP has gone to the gym and punched a bag or sparred with somebody or looked at tape, it's always Khabib, man. It's
Mhm.
always Khabib. Like there's nobody else that you're thinking of when you're going to train. You know, that helps. You know, that helps a lot. You know, if you're GSP,
Mhm.
and that I mean, Khabib has been for long like an uncrackable code, and almost the only way you can crack a really tough code is to study it for a long ass time, and that's what GSP has had. You know,
Mhm.
so I hope my initial assessment is wrong because I'd love to see GSP. Now, how painful is that? Like whether you like Khabib or you don't like Khabib, like most people, even if you don't dislike Khabib, you respect Khabib for who he is, right?
Unless you're Irish.
Unless you're Irish, and I mean, you're not respecting many people at all if that's the case. Um, but anyways, so like if you respect Khabib, which is a lot of people, how tough is it to see Khabib lose and finish his career 29-1?
If it was anybody other than GSP, I'd have a real hard time.
Yeah.
But like, GSP is my favorite fighter of all time. I think
Hmm.
he's the number one pound for pound fighter of all time. I no matter what, I just my happiness for GSP and being a three-weight world champion too, mind you.
Yeah.
If he won that fight, my happiness for GSP would far outweigh any disappointment for Khabib I would have. I'd
Yeah.
still be disappointed in him
Hmm.
for him, but it would not
Yeah.
register.
But I mean, it'd be a tough watch on TV.
It would be, yeah.
It would be a
Hindsight,
tough
yeah, yeah,
watch.
yeah.
It would be a tough watch.
I
Like,
agree. I agree.
no
The
matter
tears would
where,
come flowing again.
yeah, tears would come flowing, you know. And if you're Khabib, you're like, I think Khabib goes out with class in that situation though. Like I think Khabib
100%.
is at the end of the day, I'm happy I tried. You know, I think that's the mentality you'd have to have. But I mean, like we're talking about a fight that hasn't even been announced. So,
Yeah,
but it's a fun fantasy to kind of play out in your
yeah,
head. You know.
exactly. And mind you, do you want to get into some more UFC news too here? Because I was just looking at the clock here. We got a lot more stuff to talk about, I think, and we are over an hour now already, I think.
Yeah. So let's. I mean, we could do a flyover.
Okay, so
Like,
John Jones,
yeah,
he's real butthurt online because Khabib got the number one pound for pound spot. He feels like he should have it.
yeah.
I want to absolutely hate him for doing this, but I kind of have to somewhat respect the move.
Yeah, I have to respect the move, but at the same time, like if you're gonna say shit like that, like don't tell me you're not on cocaine.
Yeah, and somebody needs to pull John aside and say, "Look at John, the pound number one pound for pound rankings that UFC puts out is kind of based on recent events." And because he was pulling out, he's like, "Here's my first four title fights." Yeah, that was the early 2010s. Like, it's not recent. That doesn't
Yeah,
matter when we're putting it like it doesn't matter at all. So
yeah,
I think John is one, he's confused on what the pound for pound rankings mean. And he's just with Adesanya riling him up.
yeah,
He's just an angry person right now. So angry enough that he almost shot somebody with a shotgun.
yeah. You know, well, I mean, like I don't know when this tape was like. If you haven't seen it, it's basically a guy on John Jones's property or whatever, and he's running away from John Jones with a shotgun. So if I mean, first of all, like that has to be the biggest mistake of somebody's life. Walking up on John
Yeah,
Jones's
you
house,
have to
like,
like you can't be like, oh, this is John Jones' house. I'm gonna go rob it. They can't have
yeah,
known it was
yeah,
John
they
Jones'
can't have
house.
known. And then when that, and then first of all, like John Jones, like you see pictures of him with guns all the time. You see pictures of him with a big ass dog. So
Mhm.
like he's and then you have John Jones. You know, that's a pretty scary house to break into.
Yeah,
You
especially
know,
when likely he's under the influence
and
too.
yeah, he's very likely under with the tweets that he's making these days. He's very likely under some sort of influence. And then you walk in on that house, or you see John Jones, and you immediately like. I mean, if you're a thief, if you're a burglar, you watch UFC like that. I feel like that's a fact.
Yeah, I can
You
see
know,
that.
like
Yeah.
and not saying and a lot of people like to discredit like UFC and MMA and say it's like it's scummy and all that. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying like there's also some like while it's a respectable sport, there are some scummy people that watch it, including us, right? So if you're a
Fair enough.
thief, like you know who John Jones is, like you've seen this guy, and you're just like, oh no, I made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
In that, like, and I mean, John Jones is lucky that the guy like ran. All that said, like he's lucky the guy ran, and that like there's a point where it's like you don't have to chase him. like,
I mean,
like,
I don't blame John Jones for this
yeah,
situation, but I do. It's lucky the guy was decently fast and got away.
yeah,
Because if imagine if John Jones catches him on the property,
yeah,
that ain't gonna be pretty. Especially after when Anthony Smith had the break in and he beat the hell out of the guy, and John Jones like taunted him like if somebody broke into my house, like they wouldn't be walking out. Like, and he'd be in the back of his head like I gotta do something here. Like I've
yeah,
already said what I do. Like,
yeah,
so that wouldn't have been pretty.
yeah.
I think it's funny to think that maybe Adesanya was, getting a quick look for their potential upcoming fight, and
Yeah.
John found them outside.
What if it was Halloween and Adesanya just wanted to ding dong ditch him? And John Jones comes out with a shotgun.
Mind you, though, we're getting a lot closer for that fight because
Yeah.
Adesanya, again, we're flying through UFC news now.
Yeah.
But Adesanya is essentially confirmed to move up to fight Jan Błachowicz for the heavyweight title.
Yeah.
Mind you, this just proves that Adesanya was afraid of John Jones because he waited till Jones vacated to move up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so you can't chirp the guy that much and then quite obviously be scared of him. But if I'm John Jones, I think I wait to move up to heavyweight.
Yeah.
Let Adesanya go up. Probably he opened up as a pretty heavy favorite over Błachowicz. He probably beats him. And then if John Jones getting that first, he can step right in anytime he wants at light heavyweight. So if I'm John Jones,
this is like if you're a John Jones fan though, this is like this is the timeline you want to happen. You just clown on Adesanya, right? So let's say Błachowicz loses to Adesanya, John Jones comes back down, fights Błachowicz, beats Błachowicz, and then vacates the belt, and it's just like Adesanya, I don't even need to fight you. And then goes up to heavyweight. That's the ultimate like middle finger to him. Like that is like the idea. If you're John Jones, like that is like the ideal situation.
Like I can see that. I think the ideal is I think Adesanya wins. And then John Jones brutally knocks him out, kind of like DC #2 head kick fashion.
Yeah.
Gets on the mic and says, "I'm vacating again. Thanks for wasting my time."
Yeah, and then it's like, what is Adesanya gonna do? Go up to heavyweight? He's never getting a rematch.
No.
Yeah, it's like I think John Jones has a lot of power here.
And because of the like the stuff that Adesanya said too, like I'm gonna cheer for John Jones in that fight.
Yeah.
Unless some wild stuff happens between now and then. But like Adesanya,
some wild stuff is happening. It hasn't shifted you yet, so I don't know. Like,
yeah, but for me, it's like as soon as Adesanya starts saying like your dead mother wouldn't be proud of you or whatever it was, something like that.
Yeah.
Like we're taking it too far,
like,
and how quite obviously terrified Adesanya
manslaughter, not a big deal, like insulting someone's mother, like dead mother, not cool.
It's so, and it was so quite obvious that Adesanya was terrified of John Jones, and then he's just saying they poking the bear.
Yeah,
poking the bear.
Little dog syndrome.
Yep, exactly.
That's what it is. So, yeah, it's. I can't wait for these guys. Like somehow this beef is going to be settled, and I can't wait for it.
And it's amazing because we really thought it was never going to be settled too.
Yeah. So now it's really looking like that, and a lot of big news like the Błachowicz. And I mean, if you're Błachowicz, it's a great opportunity to play upset here.
Yes.
Like you're showing up to this fight. You're really working hard in the gym because, I mean, to like this guy's coming into your division. You're the title holder. This guy, this little like 185 pound, like walks at 185 pounds. Like this little squeak is coming up into your division, talking to mad shit about the guy that just left, and he's looking right past you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of incentive for Błachowicz to play a big upset there.
And it sets up a lot of big first quarter fights in 2021.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, it does.
Like 2021 is about to pop off for the UFC.
Uh-huh.
I'm excited for that. I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be something where there's gonna be a lot of time on this podcast that we talk about that in the future.
Yeah.
For now, Dodgers.
Yeah,
We're
Dodgers.
real
man.
late on this news, so I don't think we need to go too in depth. But congratulations to Los Angeles Dodgers for winning the
Yeah.
World Series. Don't spread the coronavirus everywhere.
Well, I think they're done. They made it through the season. Like
But
they can go.
but I'm talking about the Justin Turner situation.
Yeah, I know the Justin Turner, but like still, like let the guy celebrate. Like he was on the field for 6 innings. Like
7 innings.
7 innings. Okay, so you like how does a COVID test come in like just we got the results in the 7th inning of Game 6 of the World Series? How does that happen?
Like the only thing, like
How-
to the least controversial thing I would say about this, it is an absolute miracle, given how that played out, that the MLB finished the season.
Yeah, I mean,
Because if that's how they were testing all year long, how on earth did they
Yeah.
finish the season?
like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Like, how does I don't understand. Like, I the only thing I can think of is they got a false what would be a false negative,
False positive.
no, it'd be a false negative because it showed up. It originally showed up as I don't know. Can it do that? Can it do a false like where it shows up as you don't have it, and then later it's like
It's
we
if
double
it's
check
positive, you have it.
Yeah, positive, false.
So it's false positive.
Yeah, so wouldn't that mean it's a negative?
No, it'd be a false positive because it's like a positive, but it's false.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking
Not
like
a medical podcast.
Yeah, we're not and YouTube, don't even think about putting the COVID stuff down at the bottom. It takes up a lot of space. It makes
Mhm.
people freak out because it's like we're really living in the apocalypse. You
Yeah.
know, we're just trying to talk about sports. We're not trying to be medical I can barely keep this stuff straight. All I know is the 7th inning in Game 6 of the World Series is pretty late to be pointing out you have COVID.
Yeah, especially from a test 2 days prior. I think it was.
It was 2 days prior.
Well, they retested. I think the game was on Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
He tested positive on his Tuesday. They retested the Monday one. They were like, "Oh, that one's positive too." Absolute ridiculousness.
And then people get mad when he goes out and celebrates. Like this kid just won the World Series.
Yeah, you gotta put yourself in those shoes to say
Like
the pinnacle of your career. Go sit in a dark room because you might be sick.
like and it's also like at the end of this, like everyone is gonna go off to their vacation homes and be on their own for 14 days.
And
You know.
we're recording this late, so tinfoil hat here.
Yeah.
Nobody else on the Dodgers came out positive yet.
Yeah. Dude. What is that? What is going on there?
So I think, and then likely too, they're probably in ice. I'm gonna say I think he's probably had a false positive test.
Yeah,
like I think that's probably what it was.
And yeah, nobody came out. I mean, you're playing 7 innings. You're on the bench. Afterwards, you're throwing champagne on each other. I don't know how much they did that. I turned it off after it was over.
Yeah, he was making out with his wife in the middle of the field.
I didn't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to see. He was making out with his wife in the middle of the field.
And like there's a picture of them kissing, and it was like big headline. Some go like Justin Turner went back on the field after COVID test.
Dude, if I was married to Justin Turner, I'd be like, "Give me COVID. You just won the World Series, babe."
Yeah, I mean, like it's the pinnacle of the guy's career. I mean, the thing is though, like I just thought of this too. It was like, of all the players to get it, wasn't Justin Turner the one like way back that had to miss a few games because he had like acne that got infected?
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe the guy's just unclean.
Yeah. Well, me and my dad went back when he was on the Mets. We used to call him Surfer Dude because he looks like a surfer dude. You know, like he's a beach bum. You know, the guy moved out to LA. Like you're like, I jumped in the ocean. That's my shower.
Yeah, like take a shower once in a while, Justin. Maybe you won't get COVID and your acne won't get infected.
Yeah, It's tough out there. It's tough out
So,
there. But
what a time.
what a
Also,
time.
the NFL is depressing for both me and Chris as Patriots and Giants fans. The
But it's not going to be depressing tonight when Danny Dimes takes on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I would put my life savings that the Giants lose that. And the Patriots lost heartbreaking fashion today. I was texting you that they were playing awful. They made a late comeback. They were down 3 points, 30 seconds left. Cam Newton's getting a rush inside the 20. You're at least going to get a field goal to tie it. You're in a pretty good spot to punch it in. They're kind of driving down. Oh, Cam Newton fumbles it. And the Bills recover it. And that's how we're going to go to 2-5. So the NFL is depressing for me for the first time in my entire life.
Yeah, and I forgot I like it's at the point where I don't even check fantasy anymore. So that's how it's going.
Yeah. So
Like,
that is tough. And then that's all our sports news, really.
yeah,
So do you want to get into it, or are we too late?
I think it's too late. I think at this point,
Okay. I just want Mandalorian season 2, episode 1, unreal. Good watch. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Next week will be quicker, so we can give a little bit of a episode 2 recap.
yeah. Honestly,
I've
I
watched
feel
it
like
twice already.
I feel like we should do a midweek video this week and just only talk about Mandalorian and
Yeah, but
just
it comes
put it
out
up.
Friday.
Okay, so we do it. What is today? Sunday. One of these, like either Monday or Tuesday, if you're free in the evening. Let's make it. Let's just do Mandalorian reviews and just put it up under Big Game Talk. See what happens.
But episode 1 review?
Yeah,
You can't do that. And there's like hundreds of them out already.
so
Like
then
this is something we'd have to do that like Friday night for episode 2.
Okay, we'll do that episode 2.
Yeah. Because like I've watched it twice, the first episode.
Yeah, I need to watch it again. I need to
It was
watch it
pretty
again.
good. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Watch it. You definitely, after you watch it, go watch a review of it for the Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Some good stuff. Okay, because this is like people that probably listen don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So remember, like,
Well,
when
who has to give a shit?
Who?
Me, because I had to go to the bathroom real bad.
Okay.
So let's speed this up.
Okay, you go to the bathroom. I'll get into the ad read in the outro.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Everybody, I wish I could stay for the end. Love you, Brad. I'm gonna be well. So talk about Mandalorian all you want. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna zoom in on me. All right, everybody. So thank you for listening. It sucks that Chris had to leave and he couldn't withhold his duties for the whole end of the podcast. But we are sponsored, as always, by Phoenix Fit. That's spelled FNX Fit. And then you go to their website, fnxfit.com. Link could be in the bio of both the podcast and the YouTube video. They make protein, all sorts of supplements, apparel, like what I'm wearing right here. If you're watching on the YouTube video, it's really solid stuff. You get a 15% discount on any purchase, not just your first purchase. Use promo code BGT15. That's BGT15 at fnxfit.com or .ca for wherever you live. And they got some great stuff. And if you need any information about their supplements or everything, we got some pamphlets, PDF form that we can send over to you, give you some information. And then thanks for tuning in for the whole video or podcast. If you like this, make sure you like, subscribe, review, and share with your friends. That's the only way we're going to grow. If you share it with your friends, and we're going to keep coming weekly. Like Chris said, we might come with a Mandalorian kind of divvy away from sports. But again, weekly, we're going to be coming at you with some sports news. And with a lot of things going on in the MMA world, looks like we're going to have an MMA hour pretty much every week. So we're having fun with it, and we hope you stick with us. Thanks, guys. See you next week.